We had no requests for comments at the beginning of the meeting. We will have them at the end. So we go right into the pledge to the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, meeting come to order. Let's establish a quorum. Todd Reinhardt.
Present.
Stan Toro.
Here.
Brown Stout.
Here.
Bill Simonelli.
Here.
Who's that guy on the end? Grady.
Present.
Grady. And our general manager, Jack. We have a quorum. We all read the minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes as been distributed from last month?
I'll make that motion. Motion to approve.
I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Okay. I have a few comments I'd like to make. One is when we look back over the course of this last year, we've had a lot of changes. We've had 3 different management companies in a fairly short period of time. We've had 3 presidents, 3 treasurers, and 3 general managers. And yet here we are. You know, we're really on the up. Things are settling down now. We have a great new general manager. We have a great treasurer. He's the best ever at explaining the numbers to us in a way we can understand. He has a good team behind him with the finance committee. Another thing, we have a lot more resident participation, and that we really encourage. The committees are getting stronger. We've given the Lakes Committee is fully functioning. Pond Watch has always been functioning. The Landscape Committee has accepted much new responsibility, so they'll be monitoring and keeping in line the performance of our 2 major vendors, because that's really where we spend most of our money. A lot of work being done on that, and will be reported in the Landscape Committee report later. Communications is loading the documents into Live Sandoval, which is a fantastic website. So that's getting better too. So what we all want to do is work better to have Sandoval be safe, beautiful, and enjoyable. Now we got an election coming up in March. And so we please let all your neighbors know to vote, even if it's absentee, fill out a ballot, because we do need a quorum. We will hopefully have a number of candidates for the board. Those nominations, those work has to be in by the 7th, is it not, Chuck? The 7th of February, if you want an application to be a member of the board, and we encourage anyone who is interested to apply. So, for that, I want to then go into one thing. There's been a lot of questions about what we said about the Phase 3 privacy fence. Okay. And I just want to go on record by saying, first of all, that plastic privacy fence behind our homes, behind mine too, I'm in the same way, for those people living not on a lake, that is private property. That is not HOA property. If you or your adjoining neighbors want to repair the fence, you can do so, because the fence is grandfathered. The options you have, again, is either to plant a hedge on your property, near your property line. That change will need to have an ARC application and approval. If you want to enclose your backyard into you'll need, with an HOA approved fence, the 4-foot bronze fence. Let us know, because right now, the guidelines say that has to be, the setbacks really doesn't allow someone with a yard my side to have a reasonable fence. But if we get enough people that want to do that, bring it to us, and we'll need to change the bylaws so that can happen. Now, one of the drawbacks in doing that is sometime in the last year, our current landscape vendor said, if you've got a fence enclosure, we won't mow in it. Anybody who had the fence beforehand that's grandfathered, they will continue to mow in it. But, so know that those people who are working on the RFP committee, writing an RFP to replace or to at least to write a contract with our next residential landscaping vendor, you might want to put that provision in there if you want those to be mowed. All right. So with that said, let's go on to the rest of the agenda. Let's hear the treasurer's report. And you get us out of the way, right, Bill?
Yep. Marilyn, you don't have to, you're fine. Yeah.
Settle down, John.
Okay. Just need to. Okay. All right. So the first comment that I want to make about the treasurer's report for this month is that even though we're talking about year-end numbers, these numbers have not been audited yet, so they are subject to change, number one. And based on a meeting today that I had with Kathy Williams and Associate, we expect at least one more revision to the December year-end report based on some transactions that weren't posted correctly. So when I come back in February, I will be doing an update on the year-end for 22. Plus, we'll start talking, looking forward into 23. So the Fifth Third account, as of yesterday, had a balance of $3.4 million. Based on the performance metrics of the account, we have a current yield of 3% as of the 17th. The board and the finance committee met with the Fifth Third's account team back on January 17th. We did a video call with them. We introduced all the members of the board to the Fifth Third account team. In addition to that, we reviewed the account strategy and the mechanics of the account. And as a result of that meeting, and I'll be talking about this a little bit more during the Finance Committee report, the Finance Committee is taking the lead to develop a reserve cash flow forecast so we can maximize the return on the Fifth Third account. Hurricane Ian. Obviously, we're still dealing with the ramifications of Hurricane Ian. We're continuing to determine total expenses. The next slide will get into that in more detail. I did submit a loan application on the 11th, and also Todd and the risk committee are taking the lead on trying to maximize the insurance payout based on our claims. For budget follow-up, the budget was approved on January 5th, and that was part of the minutes that were just approved today. Associate is working to get the updated quarterly statements out that reflect the updates and the assessments for Q2, Q3, and Q4. And one of the things that I'll be working, I mentioned this last year, Hurricane Ian sort of derailed our efforts, and it was the intention of the board to have the general manager focus on this, was to have more of a forward-looking forecast on where we think the variances or where increases or decreases are coming, so we have a better tool for forecasting year-end results. Hurricane Ian impact. Right now, based on the latest data with working with Chuck and team, we're up to about $1.244 million in outstanding expenses for repair and restoration of the community. The major quotes that are still outstanding that Associate is working to get are related to the replacement of the fences. And that'll probably be the largest ticket items left to be put onto this list. I mentioned the insurance claim is an ongoing process. We have received 2 checks, one for $211,000 and one for $75,000. Both of those will be deposited into the Fifth Third account, if not already. I just didn't check the deposits today. The SBA loan, we put in an application on the 11th. I applied for the max nonprofit loan of $3 million. The terms that we know about today are that the Interest rate is at 1.875%, that's for nonprofit organizations, and you can have up to a 30-year payback. I've been in regular contact with the SBA rep handling our application. In fact, I was pleasantly surprised. She even called me on Saturday looking for some information. So they're working out of an SBA office in Texas, so I think like every other day we're on the phone making sure she's asking me for additional information. One of the things that I'm still trying to work out is a signed copy of the bylaws that I sent a query off to our lawyer about to make sure that we have the right documentation into the SBA. The final amount of the loan and the payback term will be determined by the SBA underwriter. And then it's going to be based on their damage assessment, the damage documentation we provided, their assessment of our finances, and what insurance payout. We know that we will get something less than $3 million because it'll be at least $3 million less our insurance payout. And once we get the offer from the SBA organization, we'll pass it through the risk committee for review before it is sent off for approval. We have to complete the insurance payout process, get the SBA loan offer in place before we start talking about what a community acceptance is going to be for the net Ian damages. So we're probably at least 2 to 4 months away from having a meaningful conversation about what kind of an assessment we can have as a result of Ian. So just want to manage expectations around that. I think, like everyone as a homeowner, I want to understand what this means to us as soon as possible. So we're working to get that done as soon as possible. Year-end financials. As I mentioned, these are probably going to be revised. I met with Associate today to work on reconciling some transactions in the general ledger, especially some of the accruals that occurred in Q4 as a result of Hurricane Ian. But as of the report that we have right now, and I took out the transactions related to the Taylor Morrison litigation, because that is a standalone transaction, and it was muddying, you know, what it was apples to apples with the budget from last year. So doing that right now, we were about 0.6% under in income and just a tad under 2% in expenses, although I think based on my conversation today, it's probably going to get closer to 3-4% by the time we clean up all these transactions. Repairs and maintenance and landscaping, which we've identified for the last couple months, have been the primary drivers of the variance. Breaking down the major categories, you can see that neighborhood landscaping irrigation was the second largest variance. We were forecasting a higher variance, but with the DTE settlement, the settlement with DTE was shifted into the 23 budget, so that's why this number looks lower than it did from previous reports. Repairs and maintenance, once you take out the litigation activity, was the largest budget item that was out of variance, and that was because of a lot of activity due to gate repairs, pool repairs, and clubhouse repairs that were independent of Ian. We've seen the constant stream of gate repairs that have occurred, plus other repair activities that we've needed to do. The other thing that's interesting is utilities are under budget, but that's because they didn't charge us for anything while the power was off. So we were on track to be slightly over, to slightly over, but thanks to Ian, we made a little money on one budget line. Other expenses, which comprise about 10% of our budget. The administrative GL is over budget because that's where we put the expenses for Christmas decorations, because there wasn't any other GL to put them in when we were putting those together in the December time frame. We essentially used the money from the Halloween decorations, which weren't done, to pay for the Christmas decorations. Some of the taxes variance is due to the timing of some invoices we've received. And as I mentioned, professional services was adjusted to be net of the litigation expenses. On a balance sheet basis, we still have our balance sheet is still pretty healthy. between assets and liabilities. And the variation relates to the timing of when the assessments come in our book to our balance sheet. Likewise, the reserve balance sheet is still pretty strong and reflects the total amount has been pretty stable over the course of this year. And that's the report.
General Manager.
You need a screen off?
Yes, please.
It is on. Yeah. It's on. Jack said always did one.
I'll be red. Hello? Give it a chance. Testing 1, 2. Start spreading. Yep.
Thank God it's all.
Go to blue.
Go to blue.
Go to blue.
It's not working.
Go to blue. That one good?
Oh, that's the one I was using, I think.
Oh, this one's got a power switch on. There we go. I got a blue switch. Hello, hello. Got a red. Hello, hello. Can you hear me? I think about ready to go without this. Use
One
my
of the
big boy
journal
voice.
functions is managing electronics.
So we turned it off.
Yeah.
That one work?
I got it.
You got it?
You taped it too good.
Here, Chuck.
I got this one. I got this one here. I got this.
What time you be here today?
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, that works.
It works.
All right, how's that? Thank you. Okay, General Manager's report. I'm happy to announce that, and it's been up for a while, our pool is fully functional. It's heated. It's is that going off. Are you playing my mic? Yeah, can you hear me?
Oh, yeah.
It's heated. The features are working. The pool water's clean. We've got a new pool company that's doing a spectacular job. I can ask my consultant, he'll attest to the increase in service. So we're happy that feature, one of our main amenities, is on top of its game right now. The second thing I'd like to talk about is, even though we call it FEMA, it's not really FEMA, it's just, the state of Florida. They completed their cleanup of all of Sandoval. A little explanation to that. I know I've made this comment in Coffee and Conversation, but FEMA started cleaning up our community, and about halfway through they stopped. And they said, okay, the state's going to take over. Had they never started, we would have been in a better position than being halfway done. That's what caused all the issues between the state and FEMA. Luckily, we got that all straightened out. We got a company in here, and we got it cleaned up. They did have state assigned workers with them. They checked off every street as it was cleaned and made sure that everything was removed. So I believe me, that was torture to get through that process. But working with state and federal governments, it's just difficult, especially since everybody's trying to get their attention. So the second phase of hurricane cleanup, as you can tell, is underway here. That is the removal of stumps and trees. A lot of the stumps have been removed and put to the curbside. What you'll see in the next few days is a grappler coming in and just picking those up and putting them into a big dump truck and carting them away. Beyond that, we'll also be trimming some trees, and we'll be grinding some stumps and all that good stuff. And then the phase after that would be soil and sod. So we're working our way through the cleanup process. As John already mentioned, the first notice of the annual meeting was delivered. Candidates who wish to run for the board, your intents have to be in by February 7th. Your bio has to be in by the 11th. You've got some more time to consider, and if you know anybody who wants to run, just give them a reminder to kind of throw in their intent. Just recently, this past week, we had our first new resident orientation, and when I say new, we had people like from 2 years that have been here. We had a great turnout. We had about 50 people here. It's something that we're going to do monthly. We may do it in the evening to make sure we get the people who work during the day, and we may do one during the day. I thought it was a great opportunity for owners to meet owners and make some connections, some new faces with some old faces. We did have some neighborhood reps also in attendance, so it was nice that they can identify someone who's living on their street. That presentation is on Live Sandoval. We'll continue to tweak it, and in the next couple of sessions, I think we actually will have it videotaped, and we'll actually put that on Live Sandoval too, so people can go back and do that. I'm probably not the cutest demo dolly with presenter, but we're going to make do, and we'll get the message across. What we're working on next is sidewalks, lake erosion, wall repair, and signage. Those are the things that are currently in the hopper, either waiting to get vendors' quotes. We have quotes. We have risk management looking at some of the contracts. That's the stage we're in. So, there's just a long laundry list, as you saw, what we're working on, but we continue to show positive movement in each of those areas. Another thing I'd like to mention, if you can see around the room here, we've got the new acoustical panels in. It sounds a little bit better in here. This was 4 or 5 months in the making, and we appreciate everybody's patience this last week when we had to close the Pelican building for all events so we can get this installed. Another item I'd like to speak about is we're getting a lot of people coming to the office or contacting us. We have a lot of roofs that are in the process of being repaired, and a lot of your contractors would really like to put a dumpster in your yard for 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks, and therefore you have no place to park your car. A lot of people are coming here and saying, I'd like to park my car here for 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks. And if you've been here in the last couple of weeks, with the events that we have, this parking lot is full by 8 o'clock in the morning. So we really, it's not that we don't want to accommodate, but we don't want to also have cars parked out there for a long period of time and causing another ripple effect with having people that want to come here and enjoy the activities. What I ask is, put some pressure on your contractor and say, hey, can you drop that dumpster on Monday? I've got 72 hours. I can park my car at the community center, and can you rip the roof off and get it out of here in 72 hours? There's other opportunities. Maybe a neighbor who's not here, or you have permission to park at their place, but we really just can't allow 50, 60 cars to park in the parking lot here. That's not what the rules call for, and we have to stick to the rules that were written. So. And last but not least, I'd like to make an introduction. We have a new lifestyle director. Her name is Jessica Cartier. She's here. I'd like to, she's going to begin. She started out, she's our receptionist right now. She's done a remarkable job, and we are so excited to have her coming on board with us. As soon as we find another receptionist, we're going to move her in. She's already started, absorbing the lifestyle. And quite frankly, I was doing a miserable job of it, so I'm so happy that she's here.
A speech, you can have a speech from you, Jessica?
What's that?
You want a
Speech?
Oh.
Okay. Yeah.
That's it for the GM report, unless there's a question.
Just for clarification on the dumpster thing, if a person has two cars and the dumpster is going to be in there, 72 hours is the allotment of time? Okay. If you have two cars and you live, for example, let's use Greendale, and is the expectation that I have to bring my cars here to park them and then walk back? Or am I allowed any flexibility to, and I hate to even go this route, is there flexibility to park on the street for a short period of time?
That's currently not in the rules and regulations, street parking between 1 and 6 o'clock.
You mean overnight?
Overnight parking. That's, emergency vehicles, so on and so forth is the reason why they do that, but.
Right, I'm just asking the question for clarification, so that.
Yeah. So currently in the rules, it says you can't park on the street from 1 to 6 or you'll be towed. Yes, ma'am.
I think we need to waive the rules for this period of time and allow people to park on the street. As far as the emergency vehicles, people park in the street in the rest of the city. It's just, we don't allow it. And I think that it makes sense, if you can't park here, where else are you going to park if you don't park in the street?
Our streets are narrower, though, than most city streets, aren't they?
Yes. Yes.
Maybe a little, but not hugely. And how many times do we have an emergency vehicle?
Yeah.
What do you suggest?
Reinhardt, have you started your roof yet?
No, sir.
How long was the dumpster in your driveway?
3 days.
Yeah, mine was in there like part of one day. So, and the people across the street, it wasn't even a full day. So it's not really, 6 weeks the dumpster's gonna be there, but there is inconvenience. There's gonna be stuff piled there. The only concern I have with allowing people to park overnight is that people are really bad about parking across, on both sides of the road. And I know of 2 instances where the ambulance services had to take the gurney out and walk down the street to get the patient in an emergency situation. And I mean, I know that it's difficult, but this would be a good time for people to use social media, the Facebook pages, put on there, look, I've got to put my car somewhere for 3 days. Does anybody have something? We've done that before, and literally, like 10 offerings for one request comes out. That would be a good place to turn to social media and talk about that. My concern is that one time that they can't get that emergency response team down the street, that could be a horrible situation.
It would, but if I really believe that would happen, but I can't imagine. The ambulance came next door to my house, and it was at a time when there were cars parked in the street, and there was no problems with the fire truck that came, and the cars were in the street because it was 10 o'clock in the morning, 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning. So they had no problem. But if, in fact, you're saying this other alternative works, okay.
Yeah, I honestly, if they can't find it on Facebook, they should probably reach out to you for another alternative. But the few times that I've seen it happen on Facebook, a number of people have come forward and said, "Oh, we're not even there, just use our driveway." So
We're gonna be looking at maybe a year before we get all the roofs done.
oh, I know, 2 years.
So what are we gonna tell our towing companies? Which cars do you tow? Will we have a special sticker for that? I think we need that enforcement to work.
Yeah.
You would agree with me, Joe? Yeah,
Turn it off, you'll never turn it back on.
right.
That's it for me.
Okay. In old business, I guess I covered most of that in
Yeah, you did. A couple of people have reached out to me directly regarding the fencing issue. And as board members, we have talked about it, one-on-one, things of that nature. And at this point, what we have in place is seems to be satisfactory, given the feedback we're getting. I wish that the agenda had gone out earlier or something like that, because I know that it's a big deal for the people that are affected, like in your neighborhood, John. But the discussion centers around, do we make changes? Do we need to make changes? So as it stands right now, the overall decision is that you can repair or replace what is currently there. If you choose not to rebuild the fence on your piece of property, that's your right to do that. But please know that your neighbor that shares that same property may choose to put the fence up on that section. That's up to them as well. And to your point, if there's a groundswell of support to start putting in bronze fencing, they need to, any changes they make or want to make, they need to submit an application to ARC. Then ARC can notify the board, we need to reconsider the setbacks just for that particular area, and then you can start allowing the bronze fencing.
Of course, the main benefit of that fence when it worked
Was privacy.
is the privacy, not, because it really didn't keep the dogs in. There was space below, any size dog could get under it.
Yeah.
So if you want to contain your pets, you need something else.
Right.
But we really don't have an adequate solution for that. Had we as a group chosen to all do hedges, we'd be in a lot better shape, 5 years ago.
That's true. No, Taylor Morrison made the worst. It was a thoughtless.
We told them to do that. They gave us the option.
When they originally designed that section,
no.
It should never have been done that way along the property lines. So that they did it to allow privacy because their lots were so close, and now we're paying the price of that. So next storm comes, we're going to have the same thing with that privacy fence. So.
Any other old business? New business, Bill?
Okay. I have a motion for consideration today. Hurricane Ian is being considered as the third costliest weather disaster in the world on record, and the deadliest hurricane to strike the state of Florida since the 1935 Labor Day hurricane. The Sandoval community experienced unprecedented damages and logistical issues in the aftermath of the storm. The associate management team did an outstanding job of securing community assets before the storm and managing the recovery of the Sandoval community in its immediate aftermath. Many residents voluntarily took it upon themselves to assist with these efforts where possible in the aftermath of the storm. It should be noted that the associate management team staff had to deal with the effects of the storm on their family and personal property while they were working to repair and restore the Sandoval community. The associate management team should be thanked and commended for their efforts on behalf of the Sandoval community. The Sandoval community is a small town unto itself. The community comprises of 1425 units across 7 square miles with an estimated 2,500 people plus in residence during the peak of the Florida storm season. Unfortunately, the associate management team and the Sandoval HOA board's efforts to prepare, repair, and restore and effectively communicate to the community in the immediate aftermath were hampered by deficiencies in the community infrastructure and preset plans for communications and safety. Specific deficiencies that I observed during, before, and in the immediate aftermath include the lack of a hardened on-site storage facility for the secure storage of key supplies and equipment, lack of backup power supply and alternative wireless-based internet access to make the clubhouse operational during the 7+ days of no power and the 10+ days of no internet post-storm. Inadequate communications capability for the associate management team across the 7 square miles of the community while standard telecommunication services were compromised. Lack of alternative communications with the community residents while standard internet-based communication services such as email were compromised. Lack of a coordinated effort across the entire community to assess the needs of individuals in the community to ensure those residents that needed assistance were identified and supported. With the fences compromised and gates not working, there were understandable concerns by the residents for the safety and security of the community. Ad hoc neighborhood watches were established, but nothing was established on a uniform community-wide basis. Additionally, there is no community-wide approach to dealing with or restricting access to soliciting by unlicensed and unscrupulous contractors. The motion is for the creation of an Ian ad hoc committee to be chaired by William Simonelli, treasurer, and to include board representation from the Somerville condos, the villas, and 3 or more volunteer property owners and or board members. The Ian ad hoc committee will be tasked with the following: develop a complete after-action report detailing pre- and post-storm experiences, actions, and challenges. This report should be based on interviews with the associate management team and owners who wish to share their experiences with the Ian ad hoc committee. Owners interviewed should include a cross-section of owners that were present during the Ian storm and its aftermath, owners that elected to evacuate, owners that were not resident in Sandoval at the time of the storm, and owners that are landlords to units in Sandoval. Based on the information collected in the after-action report and cooperation with the Sandoval General Manager, the Ian Ad Hoc Committee will provide detailed recommendations to the Sandoval Homeowners Association Board for a comprehensive community disaster preparedness and recovery plan and a community disaster communications plan. These recommendations will include specific recommendations with estimated costs for investments in infrastructure, communication capabilities, third-party communication services, and resident-based volunteer groups that could be made by Sandoval. The after-action report of the Ian Ad Hoc Committee will be shared in written form with the Sandoval community and at the board's discretion shared for review and discussion at a town hall meeting open to all Sandoval residents. The after-action report and recommendations should be completed and presented no later than April 30th, 2023. And that's the motion.
Is there a second?
I second that.
Discussion?
Initially, whenever this was brought up, my first thought was that having an ad hoc or a temporary committee working on this was not the best way to go about it. But then, after talking to a couple of other board members, it occurred to me that what is the name of the committee that's working on?
Risk management?
Yes. It occurred to me that this would be an opportunity. In business, one of the first things that businesses do when they have a situation similar to this is they do a post-mortem. They document what worked well and what did not work well. And I think that the ad hoc committee might be able to get that put together and have a nice little package so that the permanent committee looking forward could pick that up and continue moving with it. I don't see any reason that there couldn't be both of them working on it at the same time. So my concerns about this being an ad hoc committee, I'm no longer concerned about that. I think it's a great idea. We need to do a post-mortem and we need to figure out what did work well and what didn't work well. And then we can put together a plan to avoid it or to remediate it.
Any further discussion?
Maybe,
Go ahead, Ron.
I'm not sure that I think it's maybe going a little too far. I think the GM can handle this, and that I don't want to give the appearance that so much went wrong as far as actions taken. I thought that the removal of the horticultural went very quickly. Our biggest issue seemed to be the roofs. And the comments that we heard from those that did not want to change and those that did. I think that was a big issue. I don't want to hurt sales, and I think putting something like this out there could in fact hurt the residential sales if somebody thinks, wow, why would you move to Sandoval? I just think I believe in transparency, yes, but I don't want to go so far that we end up losing home sales, and I think that could happen.
Well, but let me refocus your comment. When I read this motion, there's nothing in here that talks about the landscaping or the roofs.
No,
This-
I know.
And that's the reason that I think it's important to do a postmortem, because we have some clearly lacking things. Backup power for the facility here, some type of a wireless 5G device that can allow basic internet services. There are a number of different things that we didn't know we needed to do until we got hit so hard. And I think that if anything, this would improve sales. People would look at that and go, look, they're really paying attention to what needs to be corrected. We're not talking about, we did something wrong with the roofs or we did something wrong with the landscaping. That's all done. That's very obvious to everyone. The key here is that we need to focus on the things that we can improve upon and the things that we can do better. Communications that we can keep up so that we can communicate back and forth with residents. It's going to be text messaging because that's really all that ever works in a situation like that. The cell phone companies, they use everything for the emergency services. So, the situation with the fences and the gates, those types of things, we need to look at better ways of doing it. I don't think that this is something that would become so much public knowledge, and I don't know that this would be something that realtors, and John, you can give your opinion as well, I don't think that this is something that realtors would look at and perceive it to be a bad thing. Looking at where you have shortcomings and then focusing on how you can correct that, to me, that's a value add. A postmortem and a plan to correct some of these shortcomings, to me, is a great idea.
Bill?
Yeah, one comment that I would just like to say is that when you do an after-action report, what you're focusing on is what you can do better and what can you change. It's not focused on what you did wrong. I don't think we did anything wrong during the storm. I think it's a matter of what we can do better to better serve our residents. I think there was a period of time when we were constrained from the ability to communicate with the residents in a timely fashion to let them know what was going on. We had residents that were concerned for their safety, and some of them took it upon themselves to do patrols at night that I think were not in the best interest of the community overall. So I think as a community we need to look at what happened, what we can do, and how we can keep all our various constituents informed as to what's going on and try to do things. I mean, for example, we didn't even have a survey of who is in the community, who might needed oxygen, who might needed emergency power supplies because of medical issues, who needed to, let's say, store medicine in their refrigeration when they lost power. We had none of that information available to us so that a community-based volunteer group could take it upon themselves to make sure the community was being taken care of. I mean, some people, like the Somerville Blue people, took it upon themselves to feed the neighbors and things like that, and that's very commendable, but I think we have neighborhood reps, we have groups. I think people would be willing to step up during these times of emergency to help each other, and I think that's what we're trying to do and make sure that, and one of the other intents that I have is not only to look at it from the owners, but look at it from the condos perspective, look at it at the village perspective. We had snowbirds that were away from their properties and really had no idea what was going on for a while. So this is trying to address all these various constituents with maybe a better communications plan. And I think putting a very hard date of the end of April on it puts a very focused effort in place so that we can get the report done, give it to the board with some recommendations, and then we can take the appropriate steps to pursue those investments if we choose to do so.
Any further discussion?
I have just a couple of things.
Need a mic?
I don't think it's working. It's working? I just have a couple of things. First of all, the Risk Management Committee has been asking the associate management company for specific documentation in regards to what their policies, procedures, and plans are for disaster recovery. And we just received that documentation from Heather today. I think you got a copy of it as well. So Associa has written plans, policies, and procedures for disaster recovery. So that's already in place. So it would be a it would be a great exercise, obviously, to see what's in that document, and perhaps we should look at that first and then see how we could blend this together as far as some type of action or game plan. Because I totally agree. We need to figure out what we could have done better. I don't think any of us anticipated this would ever happen, but it did. And I agree with Bill that we just need to assess how we can do it better not if, but when it happens next time. The other thing, obviously, there's two additional comments, is in the plan, there's going to be costs associated with whatever alternative power sources would be proposed, etc. So just we need to be aware of what those costs are. And then finally, I think it's one of the topics John's talking about this evening is the reinstitution of the Strategic Planning Committee. And this might be something that could fall under that umbrella, as well as we're in the process of developing that written charter, but maybe that particular committee could fall under the Strategic Planning Committee. Those are just my comments.
Ready for the question? All in favor of the motion, say aye, or just raise your hand.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion does not carry. The points made were excellent, and I think it needs to be done. If we don't do it with the ad hoc committee, I think we need to give that charge to the Strategic Planning Committee, which is not functioning now, nor has membership. So I'd like to ask, make an announcement now that those members of our association who would like to be on the Strategic Planning Committee, please submit your name and desire to Chuck. And the committee should be no less than 3, no more than probably 5 people. Since that was your purview before, I would suggest that we make the liaison be Todd Reinhardt. Next is the committee reports, and are you doing the landscaping, or we're having Lynn do that?
I think Lynn's going to do that.
Good. Lynn Berry. Wherever you like, Lynn, just make sure we can hear you.
Just turn the button on the mic.
There's multiple mics here or something. Yeah.
Pretty much.
I'll hold it. You can hold it? I'll hold it for you.
Okay, thank you.
Portable mic stand.
Okay. Hi, good evening. I'm Lynn Berry, and I'm co-chair of the Landscape Committee. The Landscape Committee meets twice a month on the first and the third Wednesday at 11 o'clock here in this Pelican building. Everybody's welcome to attend. This current month, we had 2 representatives from Crawford, Mo, and Cody attend our last meeting, and we discussed their projected schedule for the next month and for our common areas. And now that it's been 4 months since the hurricane, we're starting to see some good stuff getting done out there. We also hope to have DTE attend our February meeting. And our goal for the next coming year is to have both landscape vendors attend our meetings on a regular basis, monthly or quarterly, whenever we can get them here.
Monthly. We want to make it monthly. Yeah.
Okay. The Landscape Committee has been working on 3 projects, and we're looking at the board for approval, input, whatever they need to do. The first project is that we need to update our charter because we are lacking some areas in it. And under the section of the purpose, we need to include the following. We want to be able to set performance objectives and benchmarks for the landscape vendors. These objectives and benchmarks would be evaluated by the landscape committee, who would report monthly to the board of their findings. With this added language, we'll be able to develop clear standards for our landscaping and benchmarks or measurements to ensure that they're being met. We've never been able to do that, so we need to do that. We've also, with Dave Ott's help, has developed an email address for our landscape committee so that residents can reach out with their questions or concerns. We're not trying to bypass Chuck, but at least this way here, because people are asking quite often on Facebook, how do you get a hold of the landscape committee? With this email address, they now will know how to get to us. We will also have a checklist that we'll send out that they can go over, and if they see any of these issues or items, then they can, send us the email. Lastly, the landscape committee was requested by the board of directors to establish a subcommittee or an ad hoc committee. I don't know which one it really is.
Subcommittee.
Okay, subcommittee, to develop a request for proposals. This RFP would specify the landscaping needs for 617 residential homes on specified streets and identify a process for making those needs met. The RFP will have clear objectives and measurements to achieve the landscaping quality we deserve and require. The landscape committee is recommending the following residents to be appointed to this committee. Linda Duclos, who is on the landscape committee already, is going to be the chair. I would like to have the chair. Judy Massett is also a landscape committee member. Janie Fry is a resident that has come forward, along with Scott DePhilippis and Bill Dunker. And we would like the board to appoint them if that's what needs to happen. And then I'm just going to kind of wrap all this up and just say the last few months have really been challenging for everybody, everybody here in Sandoval. And the landscaping suffered terribly in here. However, slowly we're starting to see some things come back. Our trees are blooming and our shrubs are starting to look good. Crawford's been out there working hard, getting everything back in order. The stumps are disappearing along with the landscape debris. The landscape committee is dedicated to get our community back to being beautiful, and that is the reason everybody moved here, is the landscaping. I mean, I'd like to say it's something else, but I think most people come here because it was a beautiful community. And we're going to just continue on doing whatever we need to do to keep the landscaping in Sandoval a beautiful place for all of us. So.
Thank you. Thank you, Lynn. That's great. Now, since you're on board, I'd like to make a motion now that we authorize that subcommittee with those members that Lynn has proposed.
I'd second that.
Any discussion? All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, committee, we do have a subcommittee. And by the way, are you suggesting that with your checklist, Dave, that they then submit things, the reports back in to that?
Well, there's two things. One is what we'd like to see the residents do is with this checklist that they get, they can use it for both Crawford and Down to Earth. If they see an issue with Down to Earth, we'd like them to submit the work order, and Down to Earth's system automatically sends a reply with everything filled out with an expected completion date, and we would like them to forward that to us at the email address that's on the landscape committee's site. Then the other thing is that way we can monitor that and see if they're actually doing the work. I can tell you from experience, I submitted a work order after they did the mulch, and it was supposed to be corrected, I think last Friday. They haven't done anything, and it's still open. The other piece to that is if residents are walking around in the common areas and they see something that's not right with the work Crawford's doing, We'd like them to take a picture of it, send us an email with the location, and then we can go out and look at it. And if there's issues, we can forward it to Chuck. But there's probably a lot of issues or questions and comments sent to Chuck that aren't really valid. So we want to try to manage it from that standpoint too.
Thank you. Well, also, that last meeting, I happened to be there, was when Mo and Cody were there. When you pointed out a few things that need to be done, they got on it right away. So meeting with them, I think, really helps to, one, make things happen and make them happen. So,
Right.
Outstanding. Thank you both.
Thank you so much for taking this big task on, Lynn, you and your committee. On behalf of one of the 617 that are presently being serviced by DTE, I can say thank you very much because it's time for action and it's time to get something done. So thank you for taking that.
We have a really good committee and a lot of energy, a lot of thought, and we work good as a team, so.
Well, thank you.
Well, you're very welcome.
Thanks, Lynn.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you want my actual?
Art Committee, Grady.
Sure.
The art committee continues to process applications. Some of the statistics that I think that were updated is that the total roof applications since October 15th has been over 130. The percentages of those, 54% have been for concrete, 25% for stone-coated metal, and 21% for some type of standing seam or metal, like what you're doing. The art committee has done an excellent job. I think that they've tabled 6 to 8, and when they table it, what they do is they go back and go, look, this color's not going to work, or you need to choose something differently. But again, we've got some people designated so that if the numbers, start going up again, we have some previous art committee members that are willing to step forward and help in processing the applications. But the team on Saturday seems to be working through it. They've had a couple of visitors come in for to state their case, whatever we'll have. But it's going fine. They seem to be doing quite well, and they're not getting too badly overworked. So.
What'd you say?
I wanted to ask him a question.
Sure.
And basically, you said there were 6 or 7 that they did not, that they tabled.
Right.
Are the residents okay? I mean, has it worked out?
Yes. Typically what it is that the resident didn't provide enough information, or say, for example, they've chosen something that is not allowed on their street. Say, their street has, like my street, it offers tans and grays. They come in and they said, we want a red roof. So those are the kind of things that would be tabled. And what they do is they just reply back to them and indicate, look, this offers a couple of options. Next time, this is what's allowed. That they're working it out. I think that when we got them some refined standards to operate by, that gave
Some
them
options.
Yes, that gave them the opportunity to work with the residents. And when we published those things, that made it easier as well. So
Thank
working
you.
out pretty well.
Is that it for Art?
That's it for art.
Okay. Amenities, Stan.
Well, Chuck went over most of the things already. The pool is doing great. Thanks, Chuck, and thanks, Jack. All the vehicle gates are up and running. They're working. That's all I can say about
Pound the gate works today. I know I tried it.
Yeah, which one?
The out gate, yeah.
Yeah, so they're up and running until somebody hits it, and then we gotta fix it. We have 9 gates and a lot of people here, a lot of vendors, so we'll just keep on moving forward. That's pretty much it. Everything else is the same. We're just moving forward on different projects. Everything's getting done. We're waiting on supplies on some things, and if anybody has any issues or questions, just email me or find me at the gym or wherever, and I'm available at any time. That's pretty much it.
Okay, next is Lakes. James Simonelli let me do it tonight, so, all right. We had a number of things to talk about. One, the Lakes Committee is fully constituted now. The Pond Watch is has been constituted a long time and continue to do a good job. The ad hoc committee to look at the phase 3 litigation has met. We have the members. We're having our first major meeting with council Monday. So things are rolling and we understand the need for rapid action. A number of things happening on the lake. The biggest lake issue, as we all know, is Lake 2, where the major erosion right adjacent to Calypso. And we have a contract in place that's the lowest of a number of bids, significantly lower, and of all things, this was Solitude. And, but that is being reviewed, and the contract has to be tuned properly for us to institute, but that should be happening quickly. A number of people have voiced the fact that aerators are not working, and some of that's having parts, and some of it's because evidently when the aerator tubes were installed, they were put in the same places where we have our drainage system. So when the drainage cleaner went in, it cut them. So we're going to make sure we don't do that again. All right? If those of you who would like to know more about lakes, we'll put more and more things on Live Sandoval. There's a website that gives a lot of information about this. You can take it out, called wetplan.org, WETPLAN.org. It's interesting. It's the one that is looked at a lot by our county lakes system. Yes.
Okay.
Sure.
I have a question because the aeration of the lakes was approved just a couple, maybe 3 years ago.
Right. Expensive too.
And very expensive.
Right.
So I was going to ask you how much of what's wrong now might be covered, but surely when the contract was signed, there was some provision that they would fix whatever needed to be fixed for X amount of...
They do.
Okay.
They do that now.
Okay, so what you're saying is this company that installed them is going to take care of the problem?
Well, it depends. Chuck, help me.
Phone a friend.
We just discovered this like in the last week.
Ah, so you really don't have
We are,
enough information.
problem solving is, number one, what went wrong? Why are these aerators not working? Because we don't usually lose three all at once. So we're in conversations with going back and looking at the documents that were created to the engineering to put that in, and to see if there was a deviation from plan, and then go back to the company that did. I wasn't here 3 years ago, so we'll have to go back and.
No, and it was very expensive.
Yeah.
If that company still exists, it might have been bought by Solitude.
And we'll have to document it and see if we can, find out if they're gonna take care of it. In the meantime, we're gonna take care of it. Obviously we gotta get the aerators, back in order. And so we'll keep track of any kind
Your
of
costs.
our costs associated with it.
All right, thank
Also,
you.
the lake committee members are educating themselves, seminars and so forth to learn more and more about it. There's a lot to learn about our lakes, and they're doing a great job. That's my lake report.
Okay, and I see that I'm next for social. The social committee met and they discussed briefly the Christmas decorating contest that had to be eliminated because of the weather. But they did talk about a dance party, and I think I saw it on one of my emails that the Valentine's dance party is going to be February 10th, and Carrabba's is going to do the dinner, and there's going to be a DJ, and the cost is approximately $27. However, I don't know whether that number changed. It did. Dave's saying, yes, it changed.
How much is it? I'm sorry.
It's gonna be,
$5.
it's gonna be
$5 and potluck.
$5 in potluck?
Yeah.
Oh, this report is not, okay. Correct me on the next if it's not correct. Super Bowl party is February 12th at 5:30. Still on?
Still on.
Okay, great. Food trucks, twice a month. There's going to be an Easter fun scheduled on April the 8th. Details will come next month. And the social committee will be meeting on the first Thursday of each month at 11 a.m. here. And I think I have the next one, but I asked Dave if he would like to give the report for communications.
By the way, I like our committee chairman to be giving these reports.
I do too. I think that's great.
All right, so to give you an update on what the communication committee's doing, we have a lot of different areas that we're trying to work on, but we decided the most important one was the Live Sandoval website. And that's where we've been concentrating all our effort. We've made a lot of improvements, but there's still a lot more to do. For example, if you go to the, when you log into the website, the landing page has a lot more information on it now than it used to. There's upcoming events where there's a flyer type things that tells you what's going on. We also created a link to Town Square, so that if anybody needs to get to Town Square to look at their accounting information or anything like that, that's available. If you scroll down farther on that page, there's also some tabs with some calendar dates. And what it does is it gives you like the next 3 days worth of activities for social, fitness, management, and the Pelican Club. And the social and fitness is pretty self-explanatory, but the Pelican Club, that's just going to list any activities that are in here, whether it's a meeting or a social event, so somebody can look at it and say, I can't use the club at this time because it's all booked. The management, that's going to have any board meetings or committee meetings or any type of activity that's management/board approved. Then what we also did was we created 4 calendars on the home page, one for each of those 4 topics, where you can go in and look at, if you want, a year's worth of activities. And if you see an activity that you're interested in, they're clickable. So if you click on it, it'll open up another window, and it'll either be a flyer or have some type of additional information about that activity.
Are you guys doing the work yourself, like on the web, like you're putting all the tabs and everything else, or are you getting a company to do it?
We're doing it.
That's great.
We have a contract with Club Essentials, and based on that contract, they will provide us with a certain amount of support. So for example, we had one calendar on the web homepage, and they gave us 4, because I wanted it to correspond to the 4 tabs that were on the farther down on the page. But this way, you can go into that if it's social activity.
Yeah.
You can go in there, if you click on the Valentine's thing, it's going to open up a flyer. It gives you all the information, costs and everything else. So it's a way for the residents to get more information to see if there really are, is this something I want to do? The other thing we're doing is, let me back up. There's like 40 different landing pages on the website, and each one of those contains a bunch of different information and links to other areas. So what we're doing is we're going into each web page and identifying, A, is it okay the way it is? B, what changes need to be made, and who should be responsible for it, and who do we need to talk to, because we don't know necessarily about everything that goes on here. So we're going to be reaching out to residents and management, whoever we need to talk to find out, can you help us with this, because we need to update this. And that goes for the committees. You go out there and you look at the committees, there's a lot of information out there that's missing, and all that needs to be added. But, I don't know anything about ARC to go out there and say, this is wrong, this is what needs to be updated. So we're going to be reaching out to them, and we're going to do that with every committee. The other thing, well, one of the things we talked about was, is there a way to set up these types of meetings where we can make them password protected so that only the residents can do that? And the answer is no, we can't. Anything we try to do where it's only available to the residents would end up being more cumbersome for the residents to do, and we decided we should just leave it alone the way it is. Go ahead.
Could I suggest that you investigate looking at things like getting a private Slack or a private Teams account set up for Sandoval? That's the way that we can keep things private to the community.
Yeah, can I talk to you about that later?
Please,
Okay.
no problem.
And that's kind of it, unless anybody has any questions they want me to answer.
That's great. You need any help, I'll help. That's it.
Careful what you ask for.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks, David.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, I think we can create a private community for that. That'd be awesome. Yeah.
I don't have a lot to report from neighborhood reps. They're meeting regularly. One of the challenges is getting the names updated so they know really who's on which street. I think the fact that you've not started the new resident, welcome to Sandoval is fantastic. I don't have a lot of details to report.
The neighborhood reps updated list has been going out. Yamile's been working on that very, very diligently. I think she has like 6 more streets to complete. I told her, I challenged her to get it done before next week's neighborhood rep meeting. Every time she finishes one, she emails it out to that neighborhood rep. So we're getting that updated. So
That's a key thing for them to have.
yeah.
And I will be attending all future neighborhood reps meetings.
Next meeting first.
Finance.
Okay. Checking over all that.
Oh, that's fine.
Thank you. The Finance Committee met on Tuesday the 24th. The first thing we did was review the current status of the Hurricane Ian expenses and talked about the details relative to the status of the SBA loan. We then talked about we reviewed the financials that we presented to the committee today. Found some errors in the calculations that they were helping to correct. And then we spent a bit of time talking about the cash flow analysis and the needs for the Fifth Third account. So we carried that discussion into the meeting that I had with Kathy Williams earlier today to talk about the reserve accounts and getting those accounts consolidated. And also Sean Kinney, one of the members of the Finance Committee, volunteered to take the lead on doing the cash flow projections for reserve spend over the next 18 to 24 months so that we can then sit down with the Fifth Third account and the associate team to sort of map out what the cash needs are going to be so we can keep as much of our reserves as possible into the Fifth Third's account to maximize its return. The last thing is that, as we mentioned last month, we are also looking for any new members to join the Finance Committee if they'd like to do so. Please submit their request into the General Manager and we'll take it from there.
Thank you. Todd, covenants?
Present, sir. I am reporting on behalf of Chairman Tom Busada regarding covenants. Here's some brief notes. Sandoval's compliance officer, Chris Harris, has informed the covenants committee, now hold on to your seats, that money has been collected on several gate strikes.
Oh,
Actually, 2 of them in the amount of $1,000 each. So it's actually refreshing to see Chris's eyes light up and his smile when he says he's collecting them. So the challenge seems to be, and this is something we probably need to look at, is Chris turns in those particular checks and we don't know if they're being posted to the correct GLs. So, because I think some of the financial statements previously have showed goose eggs, but Chris says he's collected $2,000. So anyway, just a side note.
Which month was that?
I have no idea, Chuck can check.
This last month.
All right, I mean December.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the fear is that they're just being lumped into income somewhere versus being
No, there is a specific GL for
gate strikes.
gates, well, for,
But previously, over the past couple of years, it's been triple
You
zeros.
say last month, you mean January or December?
well, last month would be December.
Just something to look at.
Yeah.
Also too, just as a notice, Chris is going to start writing violations for lack of roof cleanliness. If you receive a roof violation and your roof is waiting for repair or replacement, he's asking you to contact him so he can put any type of violations on hold. Otherwise, he's going to press forward with trying to clean up the roofs. The Governance Committee approved 2 fines at the January meeting. And the committee would like to remind folks that fines, if you're charged a fine, should be paid within 5 days of notice or contact, or else you'll have to appear before the committee to appeal. And also to remind folks that this board voted in August that any fines that exceeded over 90 days, suspension of all amenities as well as gate access would be suspended. Folks would have to enter through the visitor gate, which is a lot of fun. And unfortunately, we had, Hurricane Ian create somewhat of a hurdle in that particular action that was taken in August. But we're just suggesting that management start enforcing that particular action that was approved in August. So, quick summary on that. If you have fines that are due, you don't pay it within a timely basis, amenities will be turned off. Chuck has a comment.
Just as you mentioned, Chris' eyes light up when he collects money. Yamali's eyes light up when she gets to shut off somebody's access.
Todd, you mentioned that there were 2 fines
Yes,
that
sir.
were approved. Can you tell us what those were for?
One was an art violation, and the other was, I don't know how to explain it other than a pool was being drained in the lake.
What?
Yeah.
Can't do that.
Environmental.
Environmental.
I do have a question with that, though, just personally. Where would we drain it to if they've got to drain their pool?
To your yard or to the
Front drain.
To
The
the storm
street
drain,
drain.
which then goes into the lake.
All right, just, I was thinking.
It looks
I was
nice.
thinking there was something I didn't know.
It's,
It looks nicer to do it that way.
It might eventually get to
it might have some filtering on the way.
cleaned up.
However, the water we put in the lake from our irrigation is far worse than something you get out of a pool. But
It'll kill those
it
catfish.
is a rule, I guess we're enforcing it for now. It's a tacky way to empty the pool. Right.
Thanks for asking me not to answer that one.
Yeah.
Any other things on? Yes, sir.
So there was $796.37 in damage reimbursement in December. So we'll see if that changes when they restate the December.
Well, it might have been January too.
You mean the
Well,
2,000?
It's just something we need to take a look at because Chris gets excited when he collects $2,000 on gate strikes, which makes us all happy.
Right, okay.
Yeah, but there's no other entries that would be comparable to that, so we'll have to look at that.
Good. My other thing under J, which I asked John to add to the agenda, is risk management. I had a couple of comments, and this is from Chairman Bill Dunker. Hold on 1 second, please. See if I can get there. He regrets that he would not be able to attend. He said the risk management committee activities includes reviewing the recently received information and documents concerning Associates' current and future plans and advice to the community regarding disaster preparedness and response. Based on these documents, the risk management committee will make an appropriate recommendation to the board. Next item, for the past several months, members of the Risk Management Committee have been assisting HOA management by reviewing proposed vendor and contractor contracts. That's been a process within itself, as Chuck will attest to. And so the committee has been reviewing those, and making appropriate actions for additions, corrections, or amendments to those in order to protect safety exposure to the HOA. So Mr. Dunker has been very busy with that. The final thing under risk management is the Risk Management Committee is reviewing the insurance adjuster loss report that we've received, and we are doing a comprehensive analysis for what might be additional recovery monies that are out there, as well as getting determining what the final number might be for an exposure on a monetary basis to the HOA. So it's in process and a lot of stuff going on.
We know from looking at some of the contracts that were done years ago, that some of them are pretty weak. And the fact that they're running them by risk management is excellent, and if it needs to, we'll take it to council, but that costs money for the council to review it. But we need to do a better job, and we're getting a lot of help from risk management on our contracts. Yes, ma'am.
I just thought I would share that with FEMA's reimbursement, when it was the city looking for their reimbursement, it took at least 3 years and maybe more. And I heard today the FEMA reimbursement for the school district might be 5 years.
Ooh.
So consequently, it's probably a good idea that we went ahead with the small business loan, and I think it might be a good idea to pay it off when we can.
Yeah.
But moving forward, to have the funds available makes sense.
Yeah, it's just, the trick is hitting the right balance, because you don't want to put a onerous burden on the residents to pay it off in, let's say, 2 years.
Yeah.
So you need to sort of balance.
And
The
don't
two
spend it
different
all.
Well, it's got to be spent on recovery. We've got bills to pay.
True.
So the reality is we either drain the reserves to pay the bills, and then we take the assessments to fill it back up, or we use the loan to pay off the bills, and then we pay off the loan with the assessment. So it's a pay me now or pay me later situation.
Well, we get a 2% advantage by using the
That's
using
right.
the loan.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
right.
exactly. And we can manage the cash flow a lot better that way.
Can I add just a quick comment there? And I'll give you a perspective that kind of ties into what Bill's saying. Here's a real life example, and Bill, you can fill in wherever you want. Our insurance coverage for the fences was only $30,000.
For the what?
For the fences, the perimeter fences. And if you had an opportunity, which I did this weekend, to look at that between the landscaping, the irrigation, and the actual fences, that is going to be a huge expense that Chuck has been trying to get a quote on to get a number, but your number was approximately 1.2 billion at this time.
Currently identified.
And you mentioned that probably one of the bigger ticket items is going to be the replacement of the fence, the perimeter fence.
Right.
So, it's
It'll be a big.
it's going to be a big number. Yeah.
Sure.
And then the only other thing to add to that is the other expense is what we decide to do with landscape replacement over time, in terms of having a master plan for how we want the landscape to look post-in, and then actually paying to have it done, the new landscape put in.
How many trees and so forth. I want to ask you something. Do you have influence over getting permitting? Do you have any friends that can help us get a permit quicker?
Somebody just asked me that for Lee County. Maybe.
Okay, because we might want to do that for that lake repair on Lake 2. Because we're worried about how long it takes to get a permit for that.
But that's not city or county, that is South Florida Water Management District,
Oh,
I
really?
would think.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I would think.
Oh, I don't know. Well, it's fine. I
But,
know you know people there too.
yes, I do.
Okay,
Yes, I do.
good. Thank you.
Mr. President, can I ask you one quick thing that I forgot to ask Chuck in the general manager report, and I'll be very brief. And I know you talked about this at Coffee and Conversation on last Friday, but I was cornered by one of our property owners at Farmer Joe's, which is always fun. And I was asked about the street signs, and I know that you commented about that last Friday, but just kind of, if you give just a brief summary on where you're at in regards to they've been ordered and all the stuff that you've been doing.
Yeah, so we, probably been about 2 months now that we actually placed the order. We had, the first phase was to kind of straighten up and put stop signs that were knocked out completely. And that was an expense that we paid for. There were still some stop signs that are bent and they're not where they need to be. We then did a complete inventory of every single sign that was damaged, and that was substantial. And to the point where the sign company is ordering materials, ordering, they make the signs themselves. So we keep checking in with them on almost a weekly basis. They're right here in Cape Coral. And, following up with them to say, like, we're waiting for the complete order. And then they send a crew of guys, women out to our community, and they start at one end and they just keep going until all the signs are either straightened, repaired, or replaced. There's a little bit of delay. If you look at the street signs that we have this really nice little bracket that holds the actual name of the street. That is one of the little holdups that they have, trying to get that type of bracket. We, like I said before, we're waiting for vendors. You gotta wait return, and we push them. Hurry up when we get this. As I mentioned in Coffee and Conversations, we've had 2 stop signs that were removed over the weekend. Not this past weekend, but the weekend before. And that's a dangerous situation. So we keep temporarily putting whatever we can get with these stop signs, and stop signs are very important. Street signs, we understand, we still have monuments, but we're hoping that we can get there in the next couple of weeks. So,
Thanks, John. Thank you, Mr. President.
I understand Stantoro has a stop sign replacement service.
Yeah, no, that was me. I went out there and I put it up myself.
Oh,
Yeah.
Well, actually,
and somebody stole it.
Actually, on the community trash pickup that happened on Saturday, we found one of the stop signs that we placed by your front door there.
There you go.
All right, the next board meeting should be February 23rd, is that right? All right. So no additional comments or issues, meeting is adjourned, and we